Hello everyone! Another little video today. We will talk about fuses. A familiar component to everyone is found in various types, sizes and shapes. They are found on almost all the boards, whether they are SMD, small. Even in our home we have fuses, so inside the panel they are very easy to recognize. Usually on the boards, an F is marked on top as a label, so it indicates a fuse. On this board, this is the glass one. On some other board, we can find it in this shape here. This red one here is the fuse. On some others, they look like SMD resistors. Pin type, blade type, various sizes and shapes. We can find them inside and outside the devices. But why are fuses installed, and why do we use them? The correct answer, in reality, is that they do not protect even our devices. In fact, nor do they protect us from direct electric shock. The reason is that for a fuse to blow, a current exceeding the rating printed on its surface must flow through it. So for example, if a device operates normally and requires an operating current of 1A, then the fuse will be rated slightly higher. So let's say 1.5A. Therefore, to reach 1.5A and blow the fuse, there must be a problem in the device. In other words, some issue must first arise for the amps to rise and the fuse to blow. So what does this mean? That the fault must first occur in our device, and then the fuse will blow. To actually protect the printed circuit board that exists on the board, meaning the copper traces, the wires, and everything related to the conductors, so that so many currents don't continue passing through inside, and to avoid catching fire from the temperature and sparks, so that so many currents don't continue passing through inside and catch fire too. To understand it better, let's look at it on paper for a moment, to briefly recall what voltage is and what current is, which are directly related to what the fuse can protect. And of course the resistance, also known as the load. So let's recall a very well-known formula to all electronics and electrical engineers. It is none other than Ohm's law. It shows us the current intensity as it flows through a circuit and what relationship it has with voltage and resistance. And when we say resistance, it is not uniform. The resistance we know, those components we know as resistors, like this one here. So all components have resistance, and transistors have resistance too. Other circuits have resistance, diodes have resistance, and all components, including transistors, have some resistance that can vary during their operation. So let's take a look at the current. For Ohm's law to hold, however, we must have a closed circuit. This law, meaning this formula, works only in a closed circuit. This law works, meaning this formula, when we have an open circuit. It does not apply, because we simply do not have electron movement inside it, so I will make a little circuit. Simple here with a battery and a resistor actually to close a circuit. And let's remember that the voltage, or volts as we call it, is the potential difference. Voltage is measured in volts. And let's remember that the volts we mentioned, voltage is the potential difference. Current is the flow of electrons through a conductor, measured in amperes. And the strength, that is the intensity, refers to how strong the electron flow is within the resistance, is the load within a circuit. And what does this law say? If we have this little circuit, the current will be proportional to the voltage we have, and inversely proportional to the resistance of the load where we have this circuit. What does it mean in practice? As we increase the volts, more current will flow. The leaking current through the circuit also increases. And as we increase the resistance, if we increase the resistance, then this current will decrease, because resistance is inversely proportional to current. So practically, in this little circuit we have here, if this resistance from the 1 ohm near the switch, if it was 1 ohm, it goes to 10 ohms, then the current flowing through this circuit here will be smaller. That means the current will drop. And conversely, with our voltage, if we increase this voltage, we have reduced the resistance and increased our voltage from 2 volt to 12 volt across them. So then the current flowing through our circuit here will increase. We see that voltage and resistance, meaning the load, directly affect the current passing through an electric circuit. In short, voltage and resistance determine how much current flows through a circuit. And it is clear that these three elements are directly connected to each other. The voltage, the current, and the resistance, that is. So for our fuse to blow, it actually requires either the voltage must increase significantly so that the current rises, or the resistance must decrease greatly, that is, the load increases, in short, for the fuse to blow. And this will naturally happen only when we have a large overvoltage or a short circuit, meaning our circuit is already damaged. So our fuse will stop further damage, which would be the burning of the copper. Let's do an example to prevent a fire caused by heat. So let's say that in this circuit, we placed a fuse here. So the current will flow through it. In this circuit, we will calculate. Across the fuse, we will specify that our fuse is 1A. And our resistance, let's say, is 1 ohm. Let's set our resistance at 1 ohm to make our measurements easier, and we'll set the volts at. Let's say we have a voltage here, 12 volts, and a 1 ohm resistor. What does the law tell us here? How many amperes will pass through here? If we put it where B is, the 12 and the R, the 1 ohm, which is in this law, it will show us in this formula. This is how it will come out. 12 divided by 1, which equals 12. So the circuit here will carry 12 amperes, right? At 12 amperes, the fuse will naturally blow. But this won't burn out just because it only withstands 1 ampere. At 12 amperes, our fuse will blow. Let's now add another resistor to this circuit. Let's say that our resistance is not 1 ohm, but 100. What will happen if we put the numbers here again, changing the 1 to 100? That is 0.12 amperes, that is 12 hundredths, will pass through here. Which is much less than the 1 ampere that the fuse allows. Nothing will happen. So the current will flow normally. Our resistor will just warm up a little. And now imagine that as the resistance decreases, you see the amperes rising, and our fuse will blow when it reaches 10 ohms. For this to happen, our circuit will have some problem. Our circuit will have some problem, since the resistance drops significantly. The same will happen with the voltage. The higher the voltage increases, the more the burdens will increase, and our fuse will blow again. For overvoltages, there are now circuits that protect our circuit board, but in reality, this circuit has to burn out again to protect us. It is actually a component, namely the varistors. Here is our fuse, and right next to it is this blue varistor, which, when the voltage exceeds the specified level, this component disrupts the circuit. In reality, the resistance decreases significantly and the current rises. The current rises and the fuse burns out. This usually protects against power surges from DEI, although it doesn't manage to do much. To usually do that, if this burns out, usually, and they also have other components, it doesn't manage to. And the reason is that their tolerance is very large, meaning that if you see that it says on it, it says 320 volts, so it has to exceed 320 volts to short circuit and blow the fuse. And most of the time, it also damages other components. So, what is the conclusion of all this? That in no case does the fuse protect our device from burning out. Our device will burn first, and then the fuse will burn. And for this reason, many times, in fact most of the time, when we find a burned fuse in a circuit panel, this is not the only problem. We don't just change the fuse and solve all problems. And since we realize that one fuse doesn't save our device, let's see what happens with the fuses in our home. Two little things. If they can protect us from an electric shock, only one fuse. And let's remember what we said. Voltage is directly dependent on current. The higher the voltage, the greater the current that can flow. Resistance is like our hands as well. When we complete a circuit through our body has some resistance. The same applies to our hands. Our body has some resistance through the body. This resistance we said our voltage is at 220 V, and to cause an operation, we only need 15 milliamperes. At 15 milliamperes, the human body experiences the effect from the process we refer to. And naturally, as it increases, there is a danger and even risk of cardiac arrest. Let's do an example then. We said our voltage is 220 V, and the resistance R. When, in other words, we put our hand in the socket, how much would it be? Of our body. Look here, we place a multimeter. Take a multimeter, how much will our body's resistance and we'll place the probes on our hands to see approximately what the impedance is. These are not standard values for everyone. You see, with dry hands, I measure 1 mega ohm. I am at 1.2 mega ohms. We would use this value in the formula. If I wet my hands, I will put a little water on my hands so you can see how much the resistance drops. Look, I wet my hands. I touch it and you see here, kilo, 90 kilo, 93 kilo, 100 kilo. Very low resistance. Now imagine putting this hand of mine into an electrical socket. What will happen? And as I dry my hand, the resistance increases. So imagine with the sweat still on me, the sweatier I am, the lower my resistance is. Which means that a larger current can pass through me. So the smaller the resistance, the larger the current that can pass through me. So the smaller the larger current can pass through me. The current is not standard, you see. And imagine now that it starts at 15 milliamps. I could get electrocuted. So if here, let's say my hands have reached 1 kilo ohm with the humidity we have, we will set an average resistance of EKomega and calculate it here with the formula. Simply put, the current will be due by R sub V divided by EKomega, which is 10 ohms. 1,000 ohms divided by 1,000. How much does this give us? Okay, it gives us 0.22 amperes. So what does this mean? The 0.22 amperes are 220 millimeters. Some 220 millimeters are much larger. Of course, from the 15 where it starts, the electroporation, so that our body can understand it. So we have definitely experienced an electric shock. And the fuse of our house, the smallest fuse that our house has, is 10 milliamps. What do you think? Will the fuse blow? The 10 milliamps. It will never blow. Will the current continue to pass through us without the 10 milliamps fuse blowing? Without the fuse will never blow in our house blowing. The current will continue to pass through us. And of course, I think this fuse considers us a basic consumption, a lamp on its line. That's why we need to be very careful in our house. And if we use even more, we should check our panel. Apart from the fuses that the panel has and the indicator lights, it must also have a residual current device. It is not enough for the fuses to be small, because in reality, the fuses do not protect us. They are meant to protect the lines, the cables. Fuses alone are not meant to protect against electric shock. It also needs to have a residual current device, RCD. So we always check that our panels have a residual current device, which indicates on it how many milliamperes of leakage current to Earth it can detect, meaning through us to the Earth. And of course, it's less than the amount that would be fatal to a person. So the fuse alone is not enough. There's also the grounding, as we say. Because grounding actually helps the current in amps rise to the fuse's rating to blow it. Meaning to blow it. That is, when an electrical device has short-circuited, the current will pass through the grounding, flowing through at over 10 amps naturally, and will blow the fuse. If there is no grounding and we touch it, the current will pass through us to the ground, and often, as we saw, it probably won't reach 10 amps. So we will get electrocuted. Whereas, if the residual current device we talked about earlier exists, the current will never reach there. It will trip much faster. So, for more information, of course, we ask our electricians regarding the network setup and things like that. But I want us to understand that because we have 220V, the current can easily pass through our body, causing the milliamps to rise. Whereas, if we have lower voltages like 12 or 24V, the current cannot pass through us because the body has high resistance, and the milliamps increase, and to suffer an electric shock. That's why we don't get electric shock at low voltages, because we have high resistance. And this potential difference does not allow the current to flow. The current cannot increase inside us and to pass through us. Some current passes through us, but it is very small, and we don't even realize it. So in a few words, the current kills us, while the voltage helps to pass through us in reality. Without high voltage, it cannot pass through us. High current, as the formula tells us. So, let's take a quick look. But what we started, the fuses. Let me also show you another characteristic of fuses. Well, this fuse has written on it, and a TAF at the beginning. It says TAF 3.14. What is this? Some just have 3.14 written. Some indicate TAF 3.1 on there. This means that they are fuses. What does this mean in practice? They allow the current to momentarily rise slightly above their rated value without burning out. But why choose such a fuse? We usually use these fuses when we start the machines. Instead of damaging the circuit board, we have the capacitors here. So these capacitors, to start up, need to charge during their first movement. They need a little more current than the fuse specifies. And then they blow and operate in their normal operation at 3 to 2 amperes. Anyway, how will the photovoltaic system work? The board, just like the motors on them, thanks to that. In a motor, its movement draws more amps and then drops to its operating amps. And the converters are the same. The old power supplies we had, the analog ones, need some extra amps at startup and then drop to their operating amps. So we put these fuses. So that was the video for today. I am waiting for your comments, questions, and opinions. Other friends of ours, especially electricians, can also tell us a few things about what we should pay attention to in our homes. I mentioned some basic principles to be a little careful with the current, which is directly connected to the voltage, and the fuses, which actually don't come towards our plans. And until the next video, have a great time. Hello, everyone.